Hello. And today we are going to be talking about all the things that you need to know when you start a business from the account side of things. So our guest today is Siobhan Joseph of bookabookkeeper.co.uk, and we're going to be chatting about what you can do to help your accountant. So Siobhan, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, yeah, so my name's Siobhan. I run Bookkeeper. I've been doing accounts for around 18 years now, and I've been running my business for around 11 years. Now, when I started running my business, I was working for small companies, and I noticed that there was a gap between smaller companies and those who are starting up. So my mission is to help small business owners to gain control of their finances, either through recording their transactions themselves by coming on a workshop, or helping them to bring in their transactions in a format that's easy for the bookkeeper to record or for the accountants to prepare the year-end accounts.
Okay. So a lot of people watching this, I imagine, are either going to be starting a business, perhaps with a small amount of capital, and just as an experiment to see how it goes, or they're going to be putting their redundancy pot into a business. So obviously getting the money right is important, whichever camp you fall into. So I think the first thing is, a lot of these people, a lot of our watchers will be used to working in companies where somebody else has done the accounts, and they may have just had to, produce their receipts or fill in a spreadsheet every now and again to claim back their expenses and so on. So obviously running your own business is very different from that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot more paperwork involved, and there's a lot more understanding that's needed from the business owner.
Yeah, so from the start, there's good old Excel spreadsheet. There are, things like Sage, which have been around for quite a while. There's all these new apps that are coming out at the moment. Xero, I think, is something that I know many of my own clients use. What would you say for somebody that's completely new to this is a good package to use, and then, for now and in the future?
Okay, well, I'm a QuickBooks Pro advisor, so I always advise QuickBooks. I like automated cloud software. Xero is another good one if you feel that you're good on software. But the reason why I say try and use cloud software, if possible, is because it's automated. You can log in from anywhere. Once information is there, it's in the cloud, so it won't be lost. If you have an accountant, a separate accountant, they can log in and check from anywhere. And some people, they may have a bookkeeper, sometimes they may have a family friend or a younger cousin or niece that's doing the work. So they can have a login and do the work. You as a business owner can have a login to see what's happening, see your profit and loss as it goes along. But also then if you have a separate accountant, they can log in at the same time. So everybody can see as and when everything they need to see. So if you have a problem, or if your bookkeeper has a problem, or your accountant has a query, you can, there's always a space in the software where they can send a message to you or share documents with you, so everybody can communicate much easily. And also
we'll have a Zoom call together with it up on the screen, and you can all see what you're talking about.
You can be on a Zoom call and be looking at exactly the same thing on your own respective screens. So, and that's why I really like the cloud software, because it makes everything so much easier. The investment in the software is actually worth it because of the amount of time it saves, where you could be using that time to grow your business rather than pulling your hair out trying to record all of your transactions.
Yeah. So, okay, you mentioned the word investment. So how much are we looking at for, I don't know, annually or monthly, however it's calculated?
I'm not sure of the full price of the software. QuickBooks is around £27 per month for the full package, and there are other packages that are less, depending on what your needs are. But I always advise the full package, unless if you're really tiny. So the smaller packages, once you start the smaller packages, it might just be simpler for you to use Excel. But it's all dependent on your needs. And Xero are similar in pricing, so I think they're all similar pricing, and they all offer similar things.
Okay, and I've heard about these apps where you can just photograph your receipt and upload it. Does that integrate with QuickBooks and Xero?
Yeah, so most of those apps do integrate, but before you decide on your software, check that the app you're using does integrate. So something like Receipt Bank, definitely integrates with QuickBooks Online because I use that for one of my clients. But QuickBooks also has brought something in, and that's the thing with these cloud softwares, because they're still quite young, they're constantly improving to help business owners. So this year they brought in another section on the software where you can actually use the software as an app on your phone to take a picture and scan your receipts directly into the software.
Okay, so you don't need a separate app there in that case, yeah.
No, unless if you're a bit more complicated and you need a separate app for all of the things that the separate apps offer, because they are quite good as well. They have quite a lot of functions. But unless if you need it, then the QuickBooks one works fine.
Okay. So in theory, you could go into WH Smith, spend a ton on stationery, walk out, sit in Starbucks, photograph your receipt, and it's up there, and you don't have to do anything else around it, right?
Once it goes into the software, you do have to go in at some point. Once you've been using the software, what it does is any transactions that come in, so for instance, automatic bank feeds, any transactions that happen through your bank automatically go directly into the software. So, and it works in the same way. What you have to do is then you go in at maybe once a month or once a week, however you want to do it. And then you allocate it to the correct category. If it's stationery, or if it's travel or subsistence, you allocate it. And what the software does, which I really like, is that once you've allocated it once, every time you put a receipt in or an invoice from that customer, it actually suggests what it should be to you. So it's just a matter of clicking a button once to say yes, 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 yes. But it's just all about using it regularly.
Okay. That sounds like it saves a lot of time, yeah. So yeah, you mentioned going in once a month or once a week and using it regularly. So, you know, as a business owner myself, I know that systems are what get you through, aren't they? So, I mean, any good systems that, you know, processes, do you encourage your clients to just look at accounts once a week or once a month, or anything you suggest people should be doing?
It depends on your level of transactions. If you're retail and you have a very high level of transactions, or you know, you do events and you're doing events once or twice a week, and you're going out and meeting people and you have a lot of small receipts, I would say definitely do it once a week. Even it's just the fact that just scanning it once a week and then once a month allocating it, just get all of the receipts in there, because it's so easy to lose receipts. Put it in your pocket, put it in the washing machine, or you know, or it falls out, or you're clearing out your bag and you accidentally clear out all of the wrong receipts. But generally for most businesses, once a month is fine. Recording your receipts once a month. If you use a software, you could then be checking your profit and loss once a month and identifying any areas which you're spending too much on or underspending, and just seeing how your business is doing. And also cash flow forecasting. Once you're doing it once a month, set aside time to do your cash flow forecasting, because at the moment, especially in these times, cash is really important. And when you don't know what's happening within the next few months, at least you know what cash you have available, or what you need to cut down on to make sure you have enough cash available.
Okay, so it's not just enough to be looking at your figures, you need to be analysing them and working out whether you need more cash to buy more products, or yeah,
definitely. It's a really key part of your business growth, is making sure that you have enough cash or funds to grow your business, because you may look and say, well, I don't have enough funds to do this, but I may be able to apply for some funding somewhere, be it a loan, a grant. But if you don't know, then how would you even know where to start, basically?
So you mentioned applying for funding or a grant. If you apply for funding, do they generally like to see that you have a system like QuickBooks or Xero or whatever in place? Do they ask that sort of thing?
Not usually, but it's much easier to get your documents together for the funding, to get your finances together, to show how your business has been running once you use the software. Because if you have to do, so say you're just recording on Excel, just your income and expenditure, you will then need to show your profit and loss. And bearing in mind, things that are in your cash flow forecast, things that have gone in and out of your bank, are not necessarily going to be in your profit and loss. They won't necessarily affect your profit. Whereas if you have the software, it's just a report that you could run, you review, you amend if you need to, but then it is actually there for you. Cash flow forecasting, another thing QuickBooks has just brought in recently, where you can actually produce a cash flow forecast report based on your previous activity. So if you have all of that in a software, it makes it so much easier for you to get your funding together. And if you're going to somebody to help you do your funding application, it's much easier for them to see and get an understanding of your business. Because bear in mind, if you're going somewhere else and somebody doesn't know your business, you, the business owner, that's your business, that's your baby. You know all of your business inside out, but nobody else does. So you need to show them, and software is the best way to show what's been happening in your business.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Having it there so people can, yeah, check it out. So there's a little bit of talk now about making tax digital and some new app that's meant to be coming in 2022. Is there anything, well, one, what's your thoughts on that? And two, is there anything that we should be doing or getting used to get ourselves ready for that? I know it's a couple of years yet, but
Yeah.
if you're starting from scratch, you might as well start in the right way, mightn't you?
Yeah, definitely. For anything, it's going to be, anything that comes out is going to be software. It's going to be similar to software that's already out now. It would be user friendly, but obviously only if you've been using these types of things previously. So I would say, as you mentioned before, the apps to scan in the receipt, try and use the apps for your business. But the best way to start off is actually using cloud software and integrate any apps. I know people use apps to receive payment if you're out and about, apps for stock taking, which is really important if you're retail and you need to know your stock levels. So it's really, really important to go digital as soon as possible, rather than wait until the last minute and you're clambering trying to get everything in place. If you start from now, you will be prepared, and it will be a very smooth transition. Because, for instance, when Making Tax Digital came in for the VAT, because my clients were already on QuickBooks software, there was hardly anything I needed to do. Just literally, it just transitioned so easily, and that's the best way to do it. And it will save you money in the long run, because you won't have to pay somebody to help you, you know, or bring all of the information together.
Yeah, and I'm guessing, you know, you can learn how to use those apps at your leisure now.
Yes, that's it. And, you know, get your head around it. Spend some time, if it's on a Sunday afternoon or, like you said, a Friday evening, spend time playing around in it, seeing what it does. Because the softwares, they have so many features which, you know, you don't always use because you're so focused on what you actually need. You know, play around with it, see if you're paying for something, get it to work for you.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned VAT, and obviously that is something which it's a whole other level, isn't it? And there are some businesses that have to register for VAT because of their turnover. What's your general advice on somebody starting out? Is it more wait until you can see that amount of turnover on the horizon and think about it, or do you encourage them to think about that from the beginning?
I would think about that from the beginning, because you've got two choices. If you start off and you're not registered for that, then if you do get to a point where you do need to compulsorily register, you will either have to absorb that expense within your sales price, or increase your sales price to your customer, which you may lose customers for, or, you know, have a few disgruntled customers. So if you can see that that's coming, even if it's in a year's time, at least if you can, if it's from the beginning, you can register. And then what you do in the beginning, most companies don't make a profit. So when you do register for VAT, you'll be claiming back a refund. So it's not to say that you will always be paying out a lot of VAT from the beginning. If your business is not doing well, you won't be paying out VAT. Once you're doing well, you will be paying VAT, but that is what you've collected from your customer. However, if you can see it coming, and like say you've been trading for a year and you think, you know, this is going really well, and I think in a year to 6 months' time, I will have to start registering for VAT. What I would say is, start incorporating it into your prices. Maybe if you're having an annual price increase, try and incorporate it there, and then absorb the cost, rather than have disgruntled customers. You know, you may have to increase your price, or it will affect your profit. Either way, it's not good to not be planned. And my key thing I always say to people is plan plan in advance. If it's preparing your transactions, recording your transactions, VAT, tax planning, anything, plan, plan, plan.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, no, that's good advice. Yeah. So I know some people listen to that maybe, or listen to this maybe thinking, okay, well, I'm only going to start small, and it's just me at the moment. I'm just trying this to, you know, see how it works, which is one thing. And the next step is deciding, okay, I'm going to do this business. You know, maybe I can do everything on my own. Maybe I can do my books and my accounts and so on my own. So what would you say the benefits of using an accountant are?
Okay, with an accountant, they will be able to keep you informed of all the dates and deadlines and when everything is due. When you're doing it on your own, sometimes you may miss the deadlines, or you're unsure, especially in the first year, you're unsure of what's due and what's due when, and you don't want to pay any fines. That's a really important thing, because fines can really hit you, especially in your first years. And if you continue to be late when filing stuff, the fines do increase. An accountant can advise you on the best structure for your company. So if self-employed is a good idea for you, they will let you know, or if a limited company is a good idea for you, and how to pay yourself, how to extract funds from your company. An accountant can tell you the most efficient way of doing that for you. And that's really important, because you, as a business, is there to make a profit, and that profit is usually for you to live off. So you want to extract funds in the best possible way, which means if it's you know, if you're a limited company, you may want to pay yourself through a payroll, but you have to bear in mind there will be extra costs of employers' national insurance, which you wouldn't get if you're self-employed. Corporation tax rate is separate to income tax rates. So all of that you have to bear in mind, and an accountant can help you with that. And also, when you're starting out and you're recording your transactions, you need the processes in from day one to record your transactions in the most efficient way. Your accountant can tell you exactly what they need to see, so when it comes time to prepare an account at the year end, they don't have to redo everything you've done and charge you for it. They can use what you've produced, and you know, you'll have a lower fee at the end of the year to produce your year-end accounts and corporation tax return.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, now that makes sense. Okay, now here's the biggie that everyone wants to know. What are the things in general, because of course different businesses will be different, what are the things in general that we can claim for and the things that we can't?
Okay, so the general rule is it has to be wholly and exclusively for the business use. So, you know, you have things like travel. Travel has to be maybe from your office to a client. It cannot be your everyday travel from work to the office. Subsistence has to be because you've travelled and you've gone out of your way, so you cannot have lunch in your normal way. So it can't be every day's lunch from the office, or just in a normal course of business. It has to be because you had to buy food out. There are lots of other bits. For instance, Christmas parties. You've got a limit per head for the Christmas parties, which if you go over, then you will pay tax on. But if you keep it below that, it will be claimable. Yeah, mainly expenses, you know, stationery. If you're working from home, you can claim a percentage of use of home as office. So, and that's to cover your electric, your light and heat bills, a proportion of your rent. You can either claim a percentage, or you can claim a proportion of how much of your property that you use for your business. And that's really, really important. A lot of people miss out on that because, you know, it's hard to, some people find it a bit difficult to apportion. And that's something, again, your accountant can help you with. But other than that, it's all the general expenses that are specific for your company. Stationery purchases, what else would there be? You know, things like, say you have to buy things for your office, the chairs, you know, and certain things, you know, if you're working, you have to bear in mind you may have been used to a different rule. So if you were working and sometimes you're working from home, you wouldn't have been able to claim the chair. But if it's for your exclusively for your business and you're using it only for your business, you can. If you're working from home for a company, you have an allowance from HMRC that your company would pay to you, Whereas if you're working for your business, you don't have the allowance, but you do claim every other expense. If you need to buy a new mouse for your laptop, you know, claim it, claim as much as you can. And also when you're claiming, please bear in mind that if you buy something like a fixed asset, have a look at the capital allowance rates, because you may be able to claim the whole of that in that year, as opposed to apportioning the cost over a number of years, over the life of the asset.
So fixed assets would be computer. So if you're buying a, you know, expensive Mac, that would be a fixed asset.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you may want to apportion that over the life of the assets. If you say the Mac is going to last you 5 years or 3 years, then you apportion that cost through your accounts. But when you're doing your corporation tax return, you may be able to put the whole cost through and then claim the tax back on the whole cost. And they're all things to bear in mind when you're starting a business. I know there's a lot to it. So I always say, even if you don't want to hire an accountant for the whole thing, at least get advice from an accountant before you start out, so you know exactly what cost you can claim, what tax you can claim back on it. And that also affects the timing of when you buy your assets, because if you claim an asset in 1 year and you can't claim another asset, you may be able to wait a month or a week, depending on when you want to buy the new asset, to claim it in the following tax year. But also bear in mind that you think you may want to buy something else during that tax year. And that's when you do your forecasting, your budgeting and your profit and loss monthly, to make sure you know what's coming ahead.
Yeah, okay. Excellent. Well, that's been really interesting, really helpful, actually. Is there anything that we haven't covered that's popped into your head that you think listeners should know?
Not at the moment. The only thing I would say, also another thing, when you're starting out, have a look at whatever funding's available. You know, it's changing all the time. So, you know, you may want to get somebody that specialises in that area to help you have a look, because that, like as I said before, cash is key for any business. So that may be the difference between your business growth and your business just staying on an even level.
Yeah. So accountants do that. They can help you, point you in the way of funding.
Yes, accountants can help point you in the way of funding, and also help you with your profit and loss to prepare for the person that's going to do your funding application.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been really useful information for anybody who's starting out and listening to it. So, I mean, my big takeaways are, you know, go digital as soon as possible, get in the habit so, you know, it becomes second nature to you. Use it on the cloud software, which makes it easier for you, for your accountant, and anybody else that may be looking at your books. Processes, looking at your business either once a week if it's you know, a lot happening like a retailer, or at least once a month where you upload those receipts. But when you're looking at your books, you're not just checking off, yeah, this is stationery, yeah, this is travel. You are actually looking at it analytically, looking at what's coming in. Do you have enough cash to be able to buy this next month, and so on. And also to maybe think a bit further ahead, and whether you should be registering for VAT if that's within your goals. Because of course there are some businesses that don't want to grow that big and are happy to stay below, and VAT is never going to be an issue. But for anyone who's interested in business growth, at some point that will probably be an issue, won't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And finally, find an accountant that you're happy with, that can advise you on that. I mean, find an accountant that you're happy with, I suppose, is something I just want to end on. So obviously when you're approaching people, how important is it that you get on with your accountant and all that side of things, or is it just more transactional and you want someone that you know can do the work and do the work well?
I think it's really important to find an accountant that you can get along with. Any accountant, as long as they have a qualification, they're bound by their code of conduct. So they should all accountants should be able to do the job. That shouldn't be a question. But you need to be able to get along with your accountant, because communication is key in all areas. when your accountant is trying to extract information from you, and when you're trying to communicate your information to your accountant, you need to be able to understand each other, understand each other's language. And it's really important also to trust your accountant, trust your accountant's judgment, because your accountant will actually be advising you and will be seeing all the depths of your finances. So that relationship between you and your accountant is extremely important.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned about your accountant maybe sort of chasing you for things. So, I mean, there is the point that you have to, you know, your accountant has to behave one way, but you also have to behave another way, don't you? You also have to help your accountant.
Yes,
So
yes,
I'm guessing,
definitely.
you know, make sure when your accountant emails you, don't think I'm going to look at that next week sometime. It's responding quickly. Anything else people can do to make it easier for their accountant to work with them?
Keep all the documents in one place, just in case, as long as you've recorded your transactions, your accountant may want to see documents at some point. So make sure you've got them all in order in one place and it's clear to read. And also keep the same format. So if you're going to send your accountant documents once a month, keep it as once a month and keep it quite clear that that's what it is. Keep it when you're sending your accountant documents or you have random ad hoc queries, try and keep them on separate email trails so that it doesn't get confused in the mix. For instance, they may be doing your VAT return and your payroll, and then you have a query about the furlough scheme. Try and keep it completely separate, so so you're not scrabbling around, so you've got the answers, because your accountant may give you an answer and then you can't find the answer somewhere, or you may have asked your accountant something and then they haven't been able to find the email because it's the payroll query is mixed in with the VAT query. So it's just about just keeping the communication very clear between you and the accountant. And also bear in mind, an accountant does have a portfolio of clients, so they will be dealing with lots of different clients on a daily basis. So, you do need the information to come across as quite clear. And also any documents that you get from HMRC or Companies House, try and have that on a PDF and have that either in a sharing space with your accountant. If your accountant has, I don't know, maybe Google Drive or Dropbox and they share a folder with you, have it in a sharing space. Or maybe on your software, have it in the sharing space there. So it's easily available. So if the accountant needs it, you don't have to go looking for it. The accountant doesn't have to go asking you, and then and these are things that take time and then make you miss your deadline.
Yeah.
So, and that's my main that's my main takeaway, because you don't want to miss deadlines, you don't want to get fined. It's all about keeping that healthy profit in your company.
Brilliant. No, that's been amazing. Thank you, Siobhan. And
Thank you.
details are below for anyone who'd like to be in touch with her. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.